的，紧接着我们第一场的败部淘汰赛马上就要开始了，而这一场比赛呢，将会是我们的地主选手陈太不要 BloodTrail 对上 TGXiaoT。那刚刚呢，我在后台的时候也问了一下陈太不要，有睡饱吗？今天的冷气空调还可以吗？他表示说，有睡饱，冷气还可以。好，没关系，我们陈太不要好好做自己就好了，因为毕竟面对的是这个箭在弦上、蓄势待发的 TGXiaoT，可是一刻都是松懈不得的。所以这一场鹿死谁手的战争，也请大家呢千万要跟我们一起来，好好的帮我们地主选手加油打气，以及为我们的两位选手好好的帮他们支持一下。那待会呢，我们两位选手也即将会正式出场，也请大家用热烈的加油声。把你们支持传到他们的耳边。The first match of Day 3 is going to be hometown favorite BloodTrail versus TGXiaoT. 好的，欢迎我们两位选手。来，请我们陈太不要以及我们TGXiaoT慢慢请到我们的中间握个手 ，Please shake your hands and please take a seat。好的，我们两位选手的好好加油。那接下来就把我们画面交给主播赛评 ，Let's send it over to our casters.
It's time to get into some Hearthstone. I'm TJ, once again joined by the Admiral. That's Admirable. XiaoT versus BloodTrail to start things off. It's an elimination match. The player that loses this match will go home 0-2, which would be a brutal way to finish HCT.
You know, when you're packed against the best in the world, that's often just what it's going to come to. These are 16 of the finest that Hearthstone has to offer, and there is no exception of talent in this tournament, and it's going to be brutal for some players. That's just the nature of tournaments. It's part of what I love about it. And you got to look at BloodTrail, and now we're looking at XiaoT as he sits down and gets prepared for it. And when it comes game time, I'll tell you what, these two have been serious when it comes to play. Like when they're in game, to me, like the focus looks like it's there. And at times, you know, we've seen BloodTrail in all sorts of situations. We've seen him make big blunders. We've seen him make brilliant plays. It's been, you know, pretty much all over the place where that's concerned. But lately, it's been mostly of the brilliant play style. You know, aside from that one giant blunder he had in his first championship event, it really shaped it up and turned things around. And it wasn't a surprise to see him sitting in that seat come World Championship time.
Yeah, but BloodTrail in this very stadium has a 100% win rate for tournaments. He won the All-Star event in December.
You mean overall macro tournaments?
Yes, tournaments.
In terms of tournaments won or lost.
Yes. This is his second one. The only other one he's played, he won the whole thing. So quite a high success rate, especially in front of that hometown crowd. But taking a look at the lineups for both these players, it's a mirror matchup when you consider archetypes. But when it comes down to tech choices and the way they built their decks, there's a lot of differences.
Yeah, taking a look at you know, what's there on the Warrior side. I mean, you can see it there on your screen. I'm actually really surprised that BloodTrail banned out XiaoT's Bomb Warrior in this particular situation. Now, you know, taking a look at XiaoT's Rogue, the Rogue decks are really the two I want to focus in on because they're very different, and that's been the split of the tournament so far.
Yeah.
XiaoT's running the much more aggressive version that has 2 copies of Deadly Poison. It caps out at Captain Greenskin, Leroy, and Myra's Unstable Element. Its job is to kill you as soon as possible. You look over at BloodTrail's Rogue list, it's the Burgle package with Vendettas and a High Spare and Togwaggle at the top end. I feel like when you have Warrior in your lineup and you have Archivist Elysiana and you have Baleful Banker, one of the things that you really don't want to do is ban out Warrior. But XiaoT's running Bomb Warrior as that kicker, so it makes a lot of sense that you don't necessarily want that matchup there. But on BloodTrail's side, if you look at the matchups overall, XiaoT clearly wants to ban the Warrior deck away from BloodTrail in that situation. To me, that says your Rogue is not going to be playing against a Rogue very well often in the situation. I want to then ban out the Rogue so that way the Zoo and the Hunter deck have better matchups against it and leverage my aggressive potential against the Bomb Warrior that XiaoT has here. So I'm interested that he's banned away XiaoT's Warrior in this one, and we'll have to watch out and see how Warrior does from XiaoT's side.
Yeah, a great breakdown of the potential matchups that we're going to see, but we're going to start things off with Zoo Warlock from XiaoT and with the Rogue from BloodTrail.
We see some of the influence. You know, we talked about XiaoT practicing with Bunny Hopper for this tournament. we see some of that influence in the Zoo deck with the couple copies of Witchwood Imp that are in there. I think that that's actually a pretty interesting choice for the deck because it gives you a little bit more leverage where Evil Genius is concerned. It becomes a 2-4 instead of a 2-2 when you have that turn 1 into the sacrifice. It also makes your Grim Rallies a little bit stronger if you have to use them for tempo plays. And then he's also included a copy of Defender of Argus, sort of a nod to the old days of how Zoo used to take board and then try to take advantage of that. I like the way that his Zoo deck is built. It's quite lean, and its goal is to get on the ground running and then punish your opponent. 2 copies of Soulfire, 2 copies of Sea Giant. Very straightforward list.
Yeah, I think we've seen Zoo as one of those lists that we've seen so many different variations of. While pretty much 24 cards are always the same, in those last 6 cards, there's a lot of differences. We're seeing double Soulfire, 1 Soulfire, no Soulfires. We're seeing some cuts on the 1-drops. Some additional 1-drops there, like Taskmaster, Witchwood Imp. Some run Leroy, some run Archvillain Rafam, which has been a big point of contention. And one of the differences between XiaoT and, let's say, Bunny Hopper, who was one of his main practice partners, or maybe not main practice partners, but one of his practice partners in general. And that's kind of where they differ, where XiaoT does not have the Archvillain Rafam.
And kind of looking over at BloodTrail, you know, this was a fantastic pickup. That is the premier card you're looking for with Rogue. You know, whether or not you're on the coin, but when you're on the coin especially, the 1/5 body just does a tremendous job at help picking away at the board, and then also gives you the 2 lackeys to go with it. Honing a little bit more on BloodTrail's deck list, a couple of interesting choices here as well. He's got the copy of Acidic Swamp Ooze, I think for potential mirror matches. You know, that to me spells out that when I look at the Warrior band from BloodTrail's side and the way the Rogue deck is built, flexible band might have been one of his options in mind. Also included a copy of Evil Cable Rat, 1 Fan of Knives, 1 SI7 agent are the 1-ofs that could have been 2-ofs in the list here. And to me, the 1 SI7 agent is really a big talking point because that's a card that helps you generate so much tempo against aggro decks. And when that card's not present in 2-of copies, it is a little bit harder to contain board more often.
Yeah, oftentimes it can be hard to fit in SI7 agent when you're playing that full Burgle package because you're adding in additional 3-drops into the deck because you're playing Blink Fox. You're adding in additional just early game minions because you're playing Hedge Clan Burglar. He also has a copy of Evil Cable Rat as well because of the fact that he has Heist Baron Togwaggle.
XiaoT moving in full form here. The Evil Genius popping the Scarab Egg. Looked great. Oh, and this turn, SI7 agent gets picked up, and BloodTrail's hand just went from good to massive. The preparation, the Fan of Knives, the SI7 agent, goodbye board.
And the problem with Zoo is that once they lose board, they don't have pretty much any great ways to come back. It's basically like a Soulfire turn to try and gain tempo, and a big reload with a bunch of 1-drops, maybe a Magic Carpet. But right now, XiaoT's just got a bunch of 1-drops to try and fight this back. And I don't know if that's enough because of the fact that BloodTrail still has a lot of great cards in hand to be able to fight for this with Waggle picking a couple lackeys.
It is looking to me like it could be enough. You know, XiaoT's not going to be under pressure, I think, for at least a couple turns. He has 4 1-mana cards to play, and then next turn he's got play whatever card he draws, Soulfire, Life Tap. That is a big 2 turns that XiaoT has. So BloodTrail is going to have to keep pace on these next couple of turns, but XiaoT's going to be back in it. You know, that situation that just happened was a disaster. But when you really look at it from the top down, the Evil Genius created 2 of the lackey cards, and the Scarab Egg was what fueled that Evil Genius, and it created 3 of the 1/1s. XiaoT lost a lot of board position in that one, but he didn't lose a lot of cards in that one.
Yeah, and a big thing to note is that's a prep gone. That's the only Fan of Knives gone and the only SI7 agent gone.
Yeah, so BloodTrail's going to have a much harder time, I think, keeping up with board. The fact that he's got a lackey that makes a 2-drop and a lackey that deals 2 damage, those might have been the premier ones to get in this situation because the board is right back where it was last turn.
Yeah.
And Underbelly Fences, he needs to find a way to create a non-rogue class card in hand so that those Underbelly Fences can get activated. That is critical to him getting in this game right now.
Yeah.
Pretty nice pickup there.
Also, good positioning on the faces. I mean, that's not position at all. That's just...
It just sounds funny.
I know, but it is.
Oh, Direwolf Alpha picked up for XiaoT. That is massive. So now, the Argent Squires represent 2 health kills, which means XiaoT doesn't necessarily have to Soulfire this turn. you'd be soul firing a 1-1 in this situation, and that might not be worth it. You know, you still have future tempo plays to take into consideration. The real kicker here is that HCT just does not have a lot going on because BloodTrail put so much on board. That's going to be the hard circumstance for him to handle.
Yeah, honestly, the fact that he doesn't have a good Soulfire target here works against him a little bit.
It really does.
Because the Direwolf Alpha pickup, like you said, means he trades over SI7 and Direwolf and then taps and...
Well, there's a potential...
Hopefully picks up a 1-drop?
I think there still is a potential that maybe you preserve one of the shields and push there with the Soulfire. Like, I could see Direwolf Alpha, Soulfire, one of the minions, and then trade in the Direwolf and push the other two to face. I mean, I think that's just not really getting the job done, and so play for future turns. The deck is so low to the ground in terms of cost for HCT that I think he can afford to hold his Soulfire for a bit. A Shadow Step picked up now, and BloodTrail, you know, he's on the verge of having just a crazy amount of damage at this point as well with the Waggle pick, the Leroy, and the Shadow Step.
Yeah.
So now we could be in a race situation here if BloodTrail wants to initiate that.
So if he plays the Waggle pick and hits face, he hits face for 6, brings him down to 19. Next turn,
oh boy.
Next turn he plays Waggle pick. Oh, okay.
I thought when he did that first attack that he was actually just going to go in, but this to me makes the most sense, where it's just take care of the board position and then just play some minions.
I mean, he had lethal over 3 turns.
Yes, but he has to fend off, you know, something nonsensical and crazy happening as well. I think it's stronger for him to do it this way and lock out potential. But now this opens HCT to have one of those turns where he gets to Soulfire, but he's not really playing much else aside of that. It's 2 minions and go.
Well, BloodTrail has expended a lot of resources with Leroy in hand. He has essentially a dead card in a lot of scenarios if he's not the aggressor. HCT has access to that life tap, and BloodTrail doesn't have a fantastic way to draw cards.
There's a couple big hits in this deck right now. You know, High Spare and Togwaggle, that Lackey's going to stick to board. Evil Miscreant would be a fantastic draw for BloodTrail at this point. Blink Fox would be a great draw. Raiding Party's a great draw. There's just so many of the cards are so good.
Yeah.
There's a number of them that aren't so good, like Vendetta or, you know, I was going to say Dread Corsair, but he's got a Waggle pick in hand already.
Preps are not great.
Preps are pretty
Honestly,
poor right now.
Eviscerate isn't that great of a draw either because of how wide HCT is normally going to go. Now, he's out of resources too, but the fact that he has access to the life tap, his ability to find resources is much more consistent than BloodTrail, who's reliant on finding raiding party, or some kind of resource generation.
Yeah, Soulfire here for health efficiency as well. You need your board to be able to contest. Oh boy. That's a card you want early on in the matchup, so that way when you have your go wide board position, what you get to do is you get to go wide and then prevent the Phantom Knives from being so brutal. And backstab here is going to be enough to, I think, buy BloodTrail the board for the rest of the game. The Waggle pick gets in, the Acidic Swamp Ooze stays alive, the Underbelly Fence comes down, and HCT might be locked out of this one now. Solarium is the draw now for HCT. If he does not draw Solarium, I think he's in major trouble.
Sea Giant could be okay because with the 3 minutes on the board, it would be active, so he could play it for 7 mana.
Just the damage.
Yeah, it's just way too much damage.
Oh, boy. Well, I think you got to play it, but I just don't think you're going to win this way. So now, actually, so this is kind of an interesting draw, at least, because what this means is if HCT doesn't die, he can get to a point where maybe you get a second Sea Giant and a Defender of Argus, and it is, you know, a massive long shot for something like that to happen, but there is a Defender of Argus in the deck.
Yeah.
You could play a weird role as a strange variation of Handlock if you get the perfect couple draws.
And BloodTrail does not have access to any sap. No saps in the list, which means that if a Defender of Argus came down on the Sea Giant, it would force the trade from BloodTrail.
Yeah, but I mean, BloodTrail's 2 damage off lethal here, so HCT has to have either a lethal blow, which is impossible, or he has to have Defender of Argus. Those aren't them, and BloodTrail's going to take a 1-0 lead. HCT had an excellent start, but the tech choice with the Phantom Knives pays off in spades.
Yep. With this Tempo Rogue, I mean, basically all it takes is one good turn to swing the game. Zoo just cannot reload effectively enough to handle the amount of damage that can come back after you've lost the board against Rogue.
And that's historically been true. You know, that's Zoo in a nutshell. The difference was the Zoo of old had Doom Guards in it. And Doom Guard, you know, after your board got cleared, would come down as a 5/7, hit your opponent in the face, and you're like, oh man, I got to take care of a 5/7. This is tough. You have to rely on securing a board state that your opponent has difficulty handling rather than a board state that is weak to what your opponent has. That's really the big thing for Zoo.
Yeah. But I do think that with the way these matchups have panned out, both players will have a pretty easy time taking a win with Rogue.
That's usually been the case. You know, you take a look at the tournament.
Well, it's 10 and 14, so
you know how many of those are Warrior games is my question.
Yeah, that's a great point. But against both Hunter decks, Zoo has a reasonable matchup because both players have Fan of Knives. They have a lot of chance for that swing potential against Zoo. And, you know, in the mirror match, one of them's going to win, so.
Well, BloodTrail's Rogue's out of the way, so. Oh, you meant the Zoo deck was not going to have a tough time.
Yeah, we want Ice Block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want Ice Block.
Because it's Saturday here, a lot more people have showed up to watch the matches. I got word that we had, for Saturday and Sunday, a sold-out crowd. And BloodTrail starting off the day. Also, Roger playing later on the day in his decider match for his group. I can imagine we're going to be seeing a lot more energy today throughout the hometown crowd.
I mean, you could hear it yesterday as well as Roger was playing. It was like in full support. And, you know, as Roger pulled the series with Bloodyface back to game number 5 and eventually was ended up defeated in that game number 5, you could hear a pin drop in here as it's like the breath was taken out. Like, what happened? He's supposed to win. It was a moment.
It was. All right, time to get into game number 2. XiaoT on the Hunter and BloodTrail on the Zoo Warlock. And a couple important cards here for XiaoT. Unleash the Hounds, Scavenging Hyena, and Timberwolf. This matchup is almost entirely reliant on getting that one big swing turn.
The counterattack.
The counterattack, that's effectively what it is. And it's pretty one-dimensional, honestly. We've seen this matchup a few times throughout the tournament, and either the Hunter player draws the good stuff, which is that Unleash the Hounds, and they win the game with a big Hyena, or they don't draw it, and they kind of get overrun by the amount of value. Now, on the other hand, BloodTrail's hand is not great. He has Magic Carpet, but double Grim Rally with not a great start.
Yeah, I could go back and forth on whether or not I think the hand from BloodTrail is good or bad. It's not exciting, but I don't think the hand is bad. I think that there's enough low-cost cards in this deck and enough synergy stuff that those 2 Grim Rallies could come into play. Not as much in this matchup since Unleash the Hounds has added counterplay with Timberwolf, but I digress. The big thing I want to talk about is XiaoT's Beast Hunter list and how it's differently built than some of the others we've seen. The first one to talk about is the copy of Vicious Scalehide that's included in the deck. One of the big things that this deck wants to do is Vicious Scalehide and Dire Frenzy to have a lot more sustain in the later game alongside Master's Calls in there as BloodTrail picks up Knife Juggler, which is likely the scariest minion for XiaoT.
Yeah.
The second thing that's in XiaoT's list is a copy of Witchwood Grizzly. And during the interview process, we talked to the players who included Witchwood Grizzly in their Beast Hunter, and they had admitted that they think there should have been 2 copies of Witchwood Grizzly in the deck because it's so core to your strategy of defeating the aggressive decks. You have to have some big defensive tool that can buy you some time to develop, and Witchwood Grizzly is exactly that. All the aggro decks right now want to expend as much as possible, and that opens up Witchwood Grizzly to being, in the 8 to 11 health region at that point. Like, that is a massive taunt that you're going to find consistently because of Master's Call. So those, to me, are 2 of the other kickers to the matchup and why I think XiaoT was so much more willing to bring a Hunter deck like this.
Yeah, and one of the worst matchups for Hunter is the Rogue. And if you're bringing a strategy where you're not planning on banning Rogue, if you're going to bring Hunter, you kind of have to tech that Hunter list to be a little bit better against Rogues, which is one of the worst matchups.
This hand is shaping up beautifully for BloodTrail.
Just needs 1-drops, that's it. And he's very likely to hit some off the top.
He might have needed that juggle there as well, because leaving up a Misha for a turn means that XiaoT is going to have some gas behind this to really put BloodTrail in a tough position. And even just this turn alone, I'm looking at Spring Paws, I'm looking at Hatchet. There's going to be some fireworks coming up. I think that XiaoT has an opportunity in the next 2 turns here to take a massive advantage, given that BloodTrail has drawn both Grim Rallies. The pair of them, I think, is really the the ugly looking part where it's like, maybe not. Just if that was one more minion. XiaoT, I think, is looking to see if he can actually eliminate the magic carpet this turn, which I don't believe he can do.
Nope. But he can isolate it, set up the Headhunter's Hatchet.
Yeah, I'm looking at Timberwolf and double Spring Paw in this situation, is what I'm looking at. And the reason why I was thinking about that one is because I wanted to go into the Scavenging Hyena the next turn if the board lives. XiaoT, on the other hand, wants to set up a 2-turn kill on the Magic Carpet, which to me, that was the secondary play that I was considering. The reason why I liked the Timberwolf a little bit more was the ability to actually surge onto the board and kill the Knife Juggler to prevent this kind of punish. And so XiaoT, I think likely in a bit of hurt for a turn or so, but with the Spring Paw and the Timberwolf in hand, looking to maybe swing it back. However, that's where Grim Rally comes in.
Not the best proactive lackey options.
They're minions.
But honestly, yeah, they're minions and they cost 1.
Curious to me
to get buffed by Magic Carpet.
Curious to me that BloodTrail is actually buffing the carpet since that is the highest priority target on board.
Wow.
Oh. So if Scavenging Hyena and 2 Spring Paws comes out, you're looking at a 4 health Scavenging Hyena. That lets XiaoT clear off not enough attack to take care of it. So I think you're looking at a Timberwolf turn because of that. A full takedown of the board, and then have Tundra Rhino to battle that tempo as well with the Hatchet.
And Master's Call to replenish the resources. As you mentioned earlier, the Witchwood Grizzly being a big pull. And BloodTrail's hand, because of those double Grim Rallies.
Wow, no, that's not the right time to draw that.
The second Sea Giant!
All of BloodTrail's hand right now is requiring a wide board state. Every single card. And that's not going to happen. XiaoT now needs to really think about how this turn plays out. There are no Soulfires in BloodTrail's Zoo Warlock deck, which means that Tundra Rhino is uncontestable unless BloodTrail has just the goods next turn.
And BloodTrail's hand right now to XiaoT is pretty much face up. There is not much that you're going to float 2 mana and just not play. I can't look at a single card in XiaoT in BloodTrail's Zoo Warlock list and think, yeah, he just wouldn't play that with a mana floating. He's probably got a really hard read that this is some combination of Grim Rally, Sea Giant, and maybe Archvillain Rafam.
Yeah, I mean, Archvillain Rafam fits into the same category as those cards right now. Unplayable. Everything else in BloodTrail's list, maybe Abusive Sergeant, wouldn't be played. Maybe.
I honestly think you just play it to have something on board.
Maybe. Either way, they're not impact cards, and that's really the big story here.
Yep.
Free to tempo the Tundra Rhino, and now BloodTrail's in trouble. So the question here is whether or not you play the Knife Juggler, and I think BloodTrail needs to hang on to this because he has to have something drastic happen next turn if he's going to win. If he plays this Knife Juggler, it's gone to the wind.
I'm going to get punched in the face by Sato when I go backstage after this match, but I honestly think the best draw on his deck is Archvillain Rafam.
At this stage, it might very well be. I mean, it's looking bad. I take it back. It's Solarium. It's always Solarium.
Archvillain Rafam a close second.
XiaoT does need to think about this turn, though. You know, when your opponent plays a Scarab Egg and says go, you have to think about the implications of what can happen. And so since you know there's Sea Giants, you know there's Grim Rallies, you have to think about, you know, how that's going to interact with Evil Genius, how it's going to interact with Knife Juggler in that regard. I think it wise to clear off as much of the Scarab Egg stuff as you can, and then look to keep that control until the Scavenging Hyena gets out of control.
Explosive shot picked up from the Shimmerfly. Not too impactful.
Oh boy.
Yeah. All right, well, Magic Carpet is a start.
I mean, it takes another turn for this hand to do something, though.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way BloodTrail can play these cards. I really don't.
So now he's got to rely on next turn drawing exactly Solarium off the top.
And now XiaoT, at this point in XiaoT's mind, he's got to wonder what is actually going on. And if you really dig deep into the logic, a hand like BloodTrail's is almost exactly what you can come up with. And what that means is I think XiaoT is free to take either Unleash the Beast here and just put up more board stuff, or take the kill command and start digging for lethal. And with Tundra Rhino in play and uncontested, I think that the kill command has more merit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I take that back actually because there's a Tundra Rhino in play. The Unleash the Beast just has charge.
Well, kill command, you can play all the other beasts from your hand and follow that up with kill command. But I do also see the merits on Unleash the Beast because that's 5 immediate
Yeah,
damage.
I forgot to set charge to the Tundra Rhino. That's clearly the option.
Well, just playing the beast from his hand is actually just more damage. Taking kill command and playing all the small beasts.
Oh, here we go.
It does activate Sea Giants, and if he has to read that Sea Giants are in the hand, then that means that he's Unleash the Beast is the better choice.
Yeah, so BloodTrail here looks like 7 mana is going to get expended. Knife Juggler into Magic Carpet, into Mecharoo, into Abusive Sergeant. Hope for the best.
Put this apple on your head.
Maybe throw a Grim Rally once it's all said and done.
I don't know if you have any minions left when it's all said and done.
Well, you have the Mecharoo. The mech that comes out of the death
So
row.
you want this juggle to hit this hyena. Not that one. So now it's the Mecharoo trade-in to the Scavenging Hyena. That gives you a juggle. And that brings the juggle to the Tundra Rhino. Now, he does have the option to do something perhaps a bit unusual, which is attack the Abusive Sergeant into the Scavenging Hyena and then the Mecharoo into the 5/5, which would put 3 1-health targets on board to juggle. And you have to kill this Tundra Rhino. And Grim Rally has almost 0 effect.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, looking at 8 points of damage for XiaoT. So how do you press and how do you not die? What can you die to?
Nothing. I mean, I think at this point, you just keep clearing up the board, and eventually BloodTrail is going to life tap himself to death. You even have Zul'jin as a backup plan on turn 10.
I'm looking at if you want to just keep constricting board, the position that BloodTrail set up here was actually perfect for the explosive shot that was randomly generated.
Well, just Vicious Scalehide Timberwolf allows him to clean up the board and drop the Witchwood Grizzly.
Yeah, getting the development here I think is superior.
Yeah.
The explosive shot in the center with the Vicious Scalehide would have allowed the 5/5 to attack face that turn instead. There's a little bit of merit there, but I think if you set up a strong enough board, that damage becomes irrelevant because you get it back next turn.
Yeah. All right, Ethereal Lackey into Demon Bolt.
Demon Bolt would cost 6 right now.
No.
It costs 1 less for each minion you control.
Doesn't he have 3 minions on board?
He has 2 right now. He just blew one up.
He has 2. Yeah, you're right. Nothing in the works. XiaoT with the Hunter deck that's teched for those aggro matchups is able to take the win and tie up the series 1-1.
Yeah, to me though, it wasn't the story of the tech for the aggro matchups. It was the punishment of drawing all your payoff cards in Zoo and not enough of your action. Both Grim Rallies in hand, both Sea Giants in hand, no actual minions to get the juice done with.
Yeah, but I mean, with that win, I have to think that XiaoT might be a favorite in the series moving forward. We talked about how Rogue very likely to take a win from both players in the series. So if you account for that, I think moving forward, maybe a slight favorite overall after tying up the series 1-1.
I mean, Zoo's the deck we've seen struggle. It's the deck that I think I've been, the most fearful for in a lot of players' lineups. It's unrefined and it's early on, so getting that win is, I think, a big one.
All tied up 1-1 in the first match of the day here on day 3 of the World Championship. Before we jump into game 3, we are going to have to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. More Hearthstone action right after this.
大家好，我的本名是吴宗昌，然后游戏名称是陈太不要。要讲英文吗？不用。啊，节奏贼吧，就 那个443可以找很多法术，就蛮 RNG 的，蛮好玩的，就还蛮开心的，就代表台湾，压力反正就还是要打，就上次比赛也蛮多观众来看的、啊，这次应该也会台下应该也会蛮多人了，所以会应该有点紧张啊，打牌是还好，不过下面观众人很多会比较紧张。粉丝有很多吗？多啦，就谢谢他们支持我，如果有的话，第一次好像是他叫我的，第二次是让主持人就问我要不要带，带了都输了，所以就不想带了。
Hello， 我是小 T， 来自国服，是神之梯战队的队员。我最喜欢牌组是 Temple Rose， 因为它爆发非常高，然后非常符合我喜欢的类型。最喜欢的单卡是盗贼的怪盗恶霸，因为我觉得跟班的那个机制就很酷，然后比较喜欢2张跟班牌，一张是这个，一张是术士的。我觉得时间非常紧，然后每个人都是这样，然后就是我自己，包括很多我知道的朋友，都是每天大概花16到18个小时在准备卡组上面。我觉得 Bloody Face 会是比较有希望夺冠，因为他是我应该说我现阶段觉得实力最强的一个选手，然后他的牌组这次带的很好，谢谢大家的支持，然后我会努力打好这一次总决赛。
Welcome back, everybody, to the HCT World Championship. I'm TJ, once again joined by the Admiral. That's Admiral.
Yo.
1-1, all tied up. BloodTrail versus HCT, the elimination match for Group A.
Is that the end of it? I thought you were going to keep that point going somewhere.
Nope, stopping at an inflection point.
All right. I'm going to ignore that and move on to an actual point. If you look at the fact that this series is tied, but take into account that HCT still has Rogue left and that BloodTrail has Hunter left, it tells a different story to me.
Yeah.
That feels to me like HCT has the advantage.
I would agree. We talked a little bit backstage before the match took place. Obviously, HCT's Hunter deck is better overall against aggro. He's got the Vicious Scale Hide in there. He's got the Witchwood Grizzly. But BloodTrail does have a decent anti-aggro Hunter deck himself, so that could be a turning point in this series potentially. But we're not going to talk too much about that because we're going into a Zoo Warlock mirror match.
Yeah, and BloodTrail's opening, I think, is pretty fantastic for this mirror match. You know, oftentimes for me, it is rare that I think that the aggressor on the coin is potentially at the advantage, but I'm looking at Flame Imp, Scarab Egg, and Abusive Sergeant. HCT hanging on to Sea Giant, draws a Grim Rally as well. But finds a Mecharoo and a Witchwood Imp, and I think that's a fantastic start to this game plan, where it looks like for HCT that the attacker's advantage is something he eventually wants to seize, but he wants to seize it on his time and to try to secure the Sea Giant. I think that Sea Giant is an unusual looking keep, but in my opinion, I think it is a wise keep in this particular mirror matchup, because you expect there at some point to be a lot of minions on board. It's very reasonable if that card comes down on turn 3 or 4.
Especially with what both players are trying to mulligan
Wow.
for. Oh, man.
BloodTrail's hand is gasoline. Honestly, in this spot, I think BloodTrail could reasonably forego the Flame Imp and have it for the Magic Carpet turn. The thing to really consider is how do you contest like a Knife Juggler coming down? That to me is one of the big questions. And so to me, Coin Scarab Egg is reasonable, and I think Bloodsail Corsair is reasonable as well.
Yeah, Bloodsail Corsair means he has Abusive Sergeant to answer a Knife Juggler if it were to come down.
Wow, and so a Magic Carpet drawn for HCT now as well. And so the big one that's missing here is a second 1-cost minion. or a 2-cost minion. You know, a Direwolf Alpha here would have been majorly punishing.
Yeah.
But that's would have been the reason that BloodTrail didn't use the Flame Imp, is he doesn't want, you know, his 3-2 to get traded off by Direwolf Alpha. He'd rather have the 1-2 get traded off by it.
Yeah. Better for Magic Carpet.
I like the play. Fight for that board.
Yeah. Say, I want to have the best possible chance to stick a safe Magic Carpet.
Yeah.
And that means I need the strongest board possible to fight through that. And that's a buffed Mekaru.
And talking about safe Magic Carpets, BloodTrail's here is looking pretty darn safe. He does need to consider the implications of Soulfire and what it would cost him if he lost his Magic Carpet without you know, value other than just tempo and some card advantage. Because the card advantage, I think, is much more dictated in this matchup by what's in play than what's in hand.
Yeah.
And so the what's in hand is just simply how you get the what's in play. The number of cards, I think, to make that cost happen is not as relevant. So that's why he's thinking about the Magic Carpet here, I think, instead of just, you know, flying it out there as quickly as possible. Second Sea Giant drawn.
So this kind of makes me question the Sea Giant keep. Yes, there is potential for it to come down very early on in the game. But if you think about how the matchup works, it's all about trimming off your opponent's board to make their Sea Giants less powerful, and of course, their Magic Carpet's less powerful.
Yikes.
It's board combat all the way through. That's exactly what it is. And honestly, if you expect that to happen, just board combat for the first 4 or 5 turns, Sea Giant is not getting that much cheap.
This is disgusting. XiaoT needs some major help. BloodTrail might have this in the bag. I think if a 1-cost card gets picked up here, well, that's pretty good. I mean, it gives you the Scarab Egg and Evil Genius turn.
Yeah.
I don't think BloodTrail is interested in taking care of the Scarab Egg in this turn. I think his interest right now is, well, my Magic Carpet lived again, so build a board in Grim Rally. You know, if you think about BloodTrail's position, he saw XiaoT keep that far left card. It hasn't been played yet. What could that be? I think when you really, really, really start to break it down, your head starts moving towards Sea Giant.
But is that something that's reasonable to play around? Because if he's playing Sea Giant, it means he's likely not dealing with your Magic Carpet.
Well, the play around for Sea Giant right now, I think, is figure out how to deal the most damage.
And dealing the most damage is creating the most minions because you have Grim Rally in hand.
Yeah, and so that to me is the like. Sometimes the play around doesn't mean avoid a circumstance. Sometimes the play around means punish a circumstance, and this is punishing that circumstance as well. Like XiaoT has to be terrified of this. Flame Imp drawn, so he gets to add a couple minions to board here and then play Sea Giant. And this is really, you know, why the Sea Giant keep, I think, is a thing, is because it can get you back in situations like this. The kicker is that Magic Carpet's on the other side. You know, the Magic Carpet's really the one minion, I think, that breaks that rule of where Sea Giant starts to reign supreme.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, this unchecked 4-attack Flame Imp on board, another one of those, Sea Giant's dealt with. And you gave up the ability to pressure the board early to keep the Sea Giant to try to get it online early.
So once again, I think XiaoT's in a position where, like, is that another Grim? Oh my gosh. That is a huge draw for BloodTrail. I'm not even going to finish my point. I think the game might have just ended.
He gets to Evil Genius the Scarab Egg, play a Lackey, whichever's the best for the situation.
Well, the board gets full first. But he juggles are oh my gosh. I forgot about the juggles. So now you trade that minion. You're going to trade off the Flame Imp, I believe. That lets you play one of the Goblin Lackeys. That gives one of the 2/1s rush. It gets Russian itself. Sorry, the 2/2.
Yeah.
I mean, BloodTrail's certainly playing Grim Rally's this turn. It's just a matter of how he's doing it. Yeah. That's GG, I think.
Yeah. There is no way. Sea Giant's going to be real cheap. That's the bonus. Yep, trade off as much of the board as possible here.
Done like dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. That worthy of the applause. That is about the most massive a turn that you can have.
Well,
2-1 BloodTrail.
just lethal staring at him. No way to activate Evil Genius and play a meaningful, play anything. Because you play Direwolf Alpha, Evil Genius, you have no mana. XiaoT concedes.
The look on XiaoT's face as well, I think, tells it all. How? How did this happen?
And we can argue back and forth all day long about the Sea Giant Keep. The problem with it is you're almost always going to fall behind early.
I think in the days of yore, the Sea Giant Keep makes more sense, and I think that's the intuition that XiaoT's relying on. The difference is that Magic Carpet changes the rule.
Yeah.
Warlock decks, when they fell on just even slightly behind on board, they had no attacker's initiative. They had no way to seize it back. Magic Carpet now punishes you for playing more to that effect. If it stays in play, you are going to lose the board as the player without Magic Carpet.
Yeah. And Sea Giant just got killed by a Flame Imp and an Evil Genius.
Like it was nothing.
Like it was nothing. And that's a big investment to make early on with a Mulligan Keep for a card that doesn't have that significant early board impact.
Yeah, so considering that, you know, you look at XiaoT's deck, he has Crystallizers in there. He's got a copy of Solarium, which you still really want to draw. You know, you have Witchwood Imp. You want to secure minions. The more I start thinking about it, the more I feel like Sea Giant gets pitched back in that scenario, look for the stuff that fights the board, and have Sea Giant just be your big top deck.
Yeah. All right,
Here we
well,
are.
Hunter is the last deck remaining for BloodTrail. He's going to go up against Rogue, which I think is by far the hardest matchup for him in the series. XiaoT is playing the very aggressive variant of the Tempo Rogue, double Deadly, double South Sea Deckhand, couple of Hench Clan Thugs. The problem with it is this Hunter deck is not fantastic at defense. Yes, they can have big swing turns, but the problem with it is there's so much damage from hand with this deck from XiaoT. It's not like Zoo, once you take the board, you win. Because Waggle Pick plus Leroy, Waggle Pick plus damage, Deadly Poison, Eviscerates, could just end the game even if they lose the board.
I will say that I think BloodTrail has more game against one of the more predictable and obvious game plans from XiaoT, which is exactly Hench Clan Thug. BloodTrail has included a Wing Blast and 2 copies of Mark Shot alongside Hench Clan Hogsteed. So against an opener that has exactly Hench Clan Thug, I think he's in okay shape. However, I think in this circumstance, you know, the thing I'm looking at is I'm looking at Coin and I'm looking at Evil Miscreant. That is the bread and butter of Rogue right now, and it's the reason I think the deck is massively powerful. XiaoT having that is just already puts him at the advantage. Before any cards get played, before anything gets done, advantage XiaoT.
And honestly, outside of those 2 tech inclusions that you mentioned with the Wing Blast and Mark Shot, Headhunter's Hatchet is just not that great of a card against Rogue right now.
Oh, I think it's quite poor.
The 2 damage just doesn't line up against pretty much anything that they're going to play.
The key facet of that card is that when you're able to get the additional charge from it, you maybe have some race back potential. That's what I think. I think in a situation like this, you're probably going to play the Headhunter's Hatchet because you have Animal Companion, you have Dire Frenzy, you have Master's Call. When is that Hatchet coming down otherwise?
Yeah.
How relevant is that 2 damage? Maybe it's very relevant. Admittedly, I'm not an expert on playing Hunter versus Rogue right now.
So oftentimes Rogue uses the Waggle Pick and the weapon, at least initially, to try and clear off minions to secure their board. But I don't know if that damage is going to matter.
Wow. Those are the juice. Extra minion, extra spell.
To my side.
I think here you really need to consider what a trade looks like versus what face looks like. If you go face, you're vulnerable to backstab. Your opponent just got 2 lackeys. High chance you're going to kill that, but attacking into a 1/5 feels really awful. It's still alive. Why is it a 1/5? Raiding Party gets drawn for HCT.
With preparation in hand.
Holy smokes, Tej. That is not good news if you're BloodTrail.
So with 3 Pirates already in hand, this is going to pick up South Sea Deckhand,
Dread
Corsair, and Wagglepick, which means he'll have Wagglepick into double Dread Corsair into Captain Greenskin to get the damage train rolling.
Big deal. His next turn is backstab, play a 4 attack weapon, and play 2 3/3 taunts with it. That's only like an Edwin Van Cleef and another preparation with like an Eviscerate or something.
Yeah. And because he has no combo cards in his hand right now, and because he already has drawn a significant amount of Pirates, I'd like to see the Prep Raiding Party come down this turn.
I could see...
Just to improve the average draw of his deck.
I agree and I disagree. I could see holding on to it just in case you draw Edwin Van Cleef.
That's a one of. Maybe a second Evil Miscreant could be a viable choice, but because your strongest play turn 4, regardless of anything, I think even over Edwin, is Wagglepick double Dread Corsair. I think prepping Raiding Party right now is
I would,
substantially better.
I would tend to do it because you also, you know, the term deck thinning isn't really something I think is super relevant here, but it's just an added bonus to it, where like now you draw Eviscerates more often, you draw Leroy more often. Like those are big deals.
All right.
Yeah.
Time to giddy up.
That's game. BloodTrail is not winning for this position. He had no significant minion plays. He wasn't able to contest board efficiently. HCT is going to consider what it looks like if he adds a second Dread Corsair, just in case something weird happens. He also has it as a combo activator. At the end of the day, though, you look at it and you go, what are they going to do? Hit him in the face so that they die sooner. I think that the only way BloodTrail gets back into this game is some sort of crazy Dire Frenzy shenanigans. Like you need to draw that Lynx about 3 more times.
Like 3 times in a row, basically.
I'm not even kidding. What's the card I said, Eviscerate?
Yeah. How about some more gas?
I like gas.
Nine more damage to the face.
This is when Valir looks up at old Pirate Warrior and goes, look at me. Yeah, I have the Arcanite Reaper now.
Yeah, and there's 13 damage just from hand, and that doesn't even include the chance for South Sea Deckhand to potentially be bounced back. So if a minion sticks, dunzo. And that's game.
Game 5 coming up. HCT, quick work in this one with Rogue, but his Game 5 is back onto what he's struggled with so far this series. The Zoo Warlock deck.
What it feels like a lot of players have been struggling with over the course of the week.
Rogue looks easy sometimes.
Yeah. And this is, you know, one of the most lean decks that we've seen from Rogue. I mean, a lot of players are muddying up their list with burgle cards, with blink boxes, with hench clan burglars. When everything's said and done, I just like to hit him in the face.
You're speaking my language now, Tej. Look, I enjoy the Burgle Rogue list, and their purpose is different than what the Face Rogue list is. The Face Rogue list is meant to punish you for not being able to establish yourself early.
Yeah.
The Burgle Rogue lists are meant to punish you for having a predictable form of establishment.
Yeah.
HCT just opened up with perhaps the nuts in that game, which doesn't require your full hand. Either. You know, if you have Coin Miscreant into Prep Raiding Party, that's the nuts. That's a 3-card combo going second. He had Backstab to spare. If you're going first, you know, you add a Backstab to that. That's the nuts. Like, the deck has so many power plays that punish development that it's difficult to get a foothold if Miscreant's active early.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the list, it's honestly sometimes difficult to find what could possibly be a bad hand, especially being on the coin and having that combo activator.
3/5 cost cards.
Yeah, but HCT ties up the series, which means for the first match of the day, we're going to a game number 5. Pretty much everything on the line for these players because the loser is out of the tournament and their hopes to become the world championship, or the world champion, is gone. But Game 5 going to be coming up in a few moments. We got to go to a quick break, but don't go anywhere because there's more card slinging action coming at you right after this.
都打得比较顺吧，比赛都有赢，然后就莫名其妙就打到季后赛又赢了。
And BloodTrail is going to book his spot into the championships, and he has a second go and a go at redemption at this point, and this is a huge deal for him.
应该是不会，因为我打的都蛮快的，然后对手又跟会受我的影响，也打得变得很快。甚至有那个对面第一回就烧线，然后我第二回，然后换我的时候我也烧一次给他看。就是面对他们要打了，要想比较久吧，就再想久一点。没有，我有可能只想平常只想20秒，打他们想40秒吧。就跟我同组的那个欧洲人吧，他的牧师跟战士都带的跟别人不太一样。打我是不太好啊，不过他打快攻会比较不好打。这次带的牌感觉打什么都5-5开，就都差不多。我会打的比较好吧。
炉石传说给我的生活带来了很多快乐，也为我生活带来了一大群好朋友，所以我很享受打炉石的这个过程，包括比赛的过程。在以前上高中的时候会比较沉迷别的卡牌游戏，还有数学的学习，它很好的锻炼了我的思维能力，所以在打牌的时候我会在逻辑上面可能会表现得更好一些。家人和我的队友们给我很多的帮助，所以这次来比赛希望能给他们一份满意的答卷。我觉得这并不算是一个特别大的优势吧，因为比赛还是用实力和卡组来说话的。他们之前在 HCT 的表现已经非常出色了，我希望自己代表中国出战能做得更好。超级联赛对我的帮助应该比较小吧，因为那个时候感觉自己的打法和一些想法都不是很成熟。我觉得这3个月来我成长了很多，在超级联赛中算是出现的比较顺利吧，没有哪个时候让我觉得会打不进4强。意味着我终于可以踏进世界总决赛的舞台，这也是我一直以来的梦想。
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the HCT World Championship. We're day number 3 here. If you're just tuning in, this is just match number 1 of an 8-match day. Every single one of them is an elimination match for the group stage. Every single one of them, a player goes home. Every single one of them, there's disappointment, there's heartbreak, there's sadness, there's depression. You can't ask for much more.
You can ask for a win. Avoid all that.
Also in every single one, there's triumph. There's happiness, there's elation, glory, dollar bills, and Hearthstone.
I was wondering how many more you could come up with. You just start saying words. Are you just naming objects around the room that you see?
Books, wood, televisions, people, places, things, adverbs.
Hunter versus Sue is going to be our matchup. XiaoT in this series is 0-2 with the Zoo deck, and he's looking to put BloodTrail on the 0-2 with the Hunter.
Yeah.
He needs a win if he's going to get there. Pretty nice opening hand. Add a Mekaru to it.
Okay.
Suddenly you're looking at a golden hand. Well, it's a regular card hand, but metaphorically it's gold.
A wise man once told me that hand is gasoline.
High octane. This isn't the 82 that you put in your old 91 Corolla.
XiaoT just hit the NOS.
You know, thinking about zoo variations, I mean, we would be like on the 7th Fast and Furious movie of it.
Yeah.
Last one was Zoo and Furious 6 healing up.
And this one's just they're all riding carpets.
Yeah, it's Fast 7, the
magic carpet ride.
I was trying to think of some weird Aladdin reference. I couldn't come up with one.
Me neither. I'm just not smart enough.
So the question for XiaoT, what do I need to play around? What do I need to be strong against? We alluded to it earlier. One of the ways that BloodTrail ends up being strong in the matchup is exactly Unleash the Hounds and Scavenging Hyena and produce a counterattack. XiaoT looks to me like he wants to put the test of Unleash the Hounds to BloodTrail as soon as possible for 2 reasons. Number 1, if you get it before Scavenging Hyena hits, what that means is your opponent doesn't develop the swing turn. Unleash the Hounds is expended strictly as a defensive measure. Number 2, if BloodTrail fails to do that, it means that Sea Giant is a big payoff in that scenario. So I think he's, getting paid overtime to take these kinds of risks right now and say, you know what, just jam my hand out and do what my deck does. Don't get fancy, just play my good cards.
And honestly, Zoo Warlock feels like that type of deck right now where you just have to kind of just ignore your opponent's game plan, be as aggressive as possible, and hope you kill him.
It's a deck of fundamentals.
Yeah, and there's some scenarios where you'll play around a very specific card that absolutely loses you the game. But I don't think there's many scenarios where you're just going to say, I'm going to try and play around this card from the very beginning. You got to make reads. You got to have good technical play, maximize your damage, maximize your board.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what good deck building is about, too. It's about avoiding having to make reads early and being able to just punish people with some good ABC Hearthstone.
Yep.
When Zoo has, the 2 major synergy cards like this, that's really what it is. And, Evil Genius, I think, is more so what this deck plays around than just about anything else. Everything is built with Evil Genius in mind. The Magic Carpet is really, I think, the icing on the cake for a deck like this, where you happen to want to play all these 1-cost expendable minions, so that way you can activate these powerful sacrifice minion effects, and Magic Carpet goes, hey, wait a second, I can turn all these into removal as well.
Yeah. I think it's kind of the opposite, where you build the deck around Magic Carpet, and then Grim Rally's just there because you play all these small good stuff that just synergizes super well. But that's the beauty of the deck.
XiaoT less interested in eliminating minions on board because of the Sea Giant in hand. He wants to make that struggle difficult for BloodTrail.
Oh, man.
And it's going to be a struggle indeed.
Yeah. And we saw BloodTrail take a long time in his turn last turn. He wanted to coin either Animal Companion or Master's Call, and there's benefits to both. Animal Companion gave him a way to deal with Magic Carpet if it were to come down on turn 3. Whereas Master's Call got him closer to being able to go off with the combo of Unleash the Hounds, plus Scavenging Hyena, plus a potential Timberwolf.
Yeah.
So both those plays had merit. And I like the Animal Companion because Magic Carpet can lose you the game, and Master's Call, while it does get you closer, it doesn't guarantee that happens.
Yeah, you're going to have to fight board. You have no tools to do that with right now, and you just have to make the most of it. So here for BloodTrail, I think in theory, the win condition for me is a lucky deadly shot. I feel like that's what BloodTrail has to do if he's going to win this game. And for XiaoT this turn, you would love to play that Kobold and whack away one of these minions to get the Sea Giant on board. But I think what you're going to end up doing instead is playing the Kobold and end up with the go face with it, play the Sea Giant, and then trade off on board.
Yeah, probably I'd say 1 Kobold.
I am apt to play both. You have Soulfires in deck, and you still have more Sea Giants in deck. Like I feel like you want to expend as much mana as possible. So are you looking at Direwolf Alpha instead? Like Kobold Direwolf Alpha?
No,
that doesn't work, does it?
I was thinking Kobold Lackey, 1 Kobold Lackey face, and Sea Giant.
You can hold them both, too. I don't mind holding them both because of the difficulty it presents.
Well, the Deadly Shot is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
You know that BloodTrail runs from 1 copy of Deadly Shot. In order to trade off the board, which I think you kind of have to trade into Leok, you're
Yeah.
consolidating. And you don't really want to consolidate in that position.
Yeah.
His hand
trade,
wants to.
This trade is unnecessary. Here, Xiaoti is free to go face. This is just extra damage.
Yeah.
The Leok needs to be cleared for Unleash the Hounds and Deadly Shot. If you're going to land it, it's 33%. Finds Unleash the Hounds, and
Sure, but
Not now.
At this point,
not yet.
I'm pretty sure that you just have to rip the 1 in 3 Deadly Shot. I honestly think that's the best chance to win. Now, the other option is to just go for Master's Call, take the damage, pick up Timberwolf, pick up Scavenging Hyena, and then go for the big sports swing.
Yeah, honestly, you could get Spring Paws in that a lot of times as well. So the Master's Call is interesting to me because can you isolate the Sea Giant by taking damage? You know, Xiaoti, taking 8's not comfortable, but there's not a lot of reach in the deck. We're looking at Soulfire, and there's no charge damage. Like, you have to stabilize board to do that. So if you Master's Call in this instance, leverage your life total, and then try to buy back the tempo in the following turn with a big Unleash the Hounds play, that might be better.
I moves quickly.
I don't know about that. This feels, at best, weak. And now the payoff for Xiaoti hanging on to those kobolds. You get to wipe out these 1/1s. Evil Genius refill.
Hit for 8.
Make it 10 if the abusive if you want to.
Yeah.
You also, I think there's some justification for just, slinging the kobold's face. I don't think that's like unreasonable.
Yeah.
I just think it's wise to keep the board clean in this circumstance. You want your minions to live so that way you stay out of the range of Deadly Shot. That's the only card I think that Xiaoti has to fear right now.
Yeah. The problem I have with the Unleashed play is I just don't think that's the win condition.
Now you're just back into the same spot now.
You're back into the same spot. You lost a crucial card to have those swing turns. Maybe the Sea Giant changes it. Maybe he feels like he never gets a big enough swing turn with Sea Giant on board, and he's hoping that Xiaoti's hand is dead so he can get a better Deadly Shot next turn. That's what I'm thinking.
Evil Genius and the lackeys, they're just so good.
Almost out of time.
Inferno's probably the take here, but Spirit Bomb is going to be the nod to like a Misha roll or maybe a Scavenging Hyena being able to stick. 8 crashes in. I mean, in BloodTrail, he's got an even worse chance to hit the Deadly Shot unless he plays the Hatchet. So he has to play the Hatchet, and then he has to play the Deadly Shot. He took 8 damage and expended a major defensive resource.
All right, 1 in 3.
For almost 0 benefit.
He's going to rip it.
You see Xiaoti kind of look up to the skies like a big relief point.
Yeah.
And I think he knows this is it. I'm going to win. The Defender of Argus, just extra damage immediately.
Yeah, I mean,
Direwolf, more damage immediately. And BloodTrail's no counterplay. None in the deck.
Pushing 12, and headsets are coming off. That's a concede.
Xiaoti. 3 games to 2, avoids getting swept on the Zoo Warlock, knocks BloodTrail out of the tournament, and moves on to the decider match for the group.
A very back and forth matchup, but we said it right after that game 2 where they tied the series up. It felt like Xiaoti had an advantage just because of the weak point in BloodTrail's lineup, not getting a win early, and Xiaoti having Rogue in that crucial spot to be able to have effectively 2 chances to beat that final deck. And it ends up working out for him, and you got to feel for BloodTrail. Just a few months ago in December at All-Stars, a much different story for him on the exact same stage. Won the whole thing. And against Tom 60229 in the finals to boot, who's one of the best players of our time. But now BloodTrail going to be the first player from Group A and from the tournament to be eliminated.
It's tough. I think anyone that you put in a slot at that first elimination, you're going to have a story to tell behind them and their success this year. That's how World Championships qualifications work. BloodTrail was at 2 championships this year. He won the All-Stars in Taiwan, and I think here at this stage, with the limited amount of time that players had to prepare, that to me speaks to something that BloodTrail perhaps wasn't up to the task for. When I look at his deck lists overall, there are some question marks I have. There's a lot of tech choices where you can see what they're trying to do, but if you take into account the ban strategy and what everything's trying to do, some of the tech choices are all over the place. They're all meant to serve different things. They're not focused on one idea, and that's what Conquest has been about.
That's right. And I think BloodTrail, even though this is going to hurt. It's going to hurt for a while. Can't be too disappointed about his year. As you mentioned, all of his accomplishments. So definitely a player to watch moving forward in the future as we get into Grandmasters as well. So my eyes are still on BloodTrail. And XiaoT is going to have to play again today. He's going to have to play in that decider match, a rematch against Jing, who he lost 3-0 to on day one of competition. So definitely a weird story, because if you look at their lineup side by side, they're quite similar in that they both have kind of an aggressive strategy moving forward. But I don't think that the 3-0 score was indicative of how that series can pan out.
I definitely don't think so either. Jing has brought Token Druid to this tournament, which many players in the interview process talked about. Their lineup was strong against it, and the players who brought it expressed sentiment that it was the weak point of their lineup. It was the one that they were fearing for getting the win. Jing went 1-0 with that Token Druid build, and it's that's only the one game that's there. It has draws that can be absolutely dominant against what your opponent has to offer, but the consistency I don't think is quite there. A lot of times your hand gets bogged down and you find yourself in trouble. So if he has a repeat performance, that's great for Jing. I think the Token Druid getting past is the difference in winning and losing the matchup. I think if he struggles with that Token Druid, though, we're going to see it closer to why that deck is considered so weak as he lost in the second set with it.
The bonus for Jing moving forward is that he had a full day to prepare for two players that had essentially the same lineup.
Yeah.
And he had that full day of rest, where XiaoT had to kind of split his time. He said, well, I got to focus on BloodTrail, because if I lose him out of the tournament. But I kind of have to look forward to say, if I win, I got to make sure that I'm focusing on Jing as well, to make sure that I have the best chance of moving on to those quarterfinals. So that match is going to come later on today, I believe, in the 5th match. But we're just one match into an 8-match day here on day number 3 of the World Championship. As XiaoT moves on and BloodTrail is eliminated from the tournament, we're going to have to go to a quick break before we get into more action. But don't go anywhere. More from the World Championship right after this.